Good afternoon and welcome to the National Urban League's Digital Career Success Series. My name is Jody Brockington and I am the host. We are brought to you here today by the National Urban League and the Urban League Jobs Network on Equal Pay Day, and a very important day for everyone, especially women. Equal Pay Day, I think, should be every day as a woman and a woman of color. Today, we have brought to you an infamous friend of Jody, FOJ, Dr. Dawn DeLavedade, all the way from Orlando, Florida. And she is joining us today because she's going to take an interesting twist on what Equal Pay Day can mean, not just for women, women of color, and for men, how we can all work together to make this better for not just our career, but also our lives. She is the author of She Makes More, and if you have not been following her and you are a top breadwinner, you need to be. I had the opportunity of meeting her years ago through Black Enterprise and a whole bunch of trips where you meet important women of color. As a doctor, there are very few doctors of color, women let alone, and she has a very interesting career and really wants to make sure that women are prepared to be the breadwinners of today. So today's topic will take a twist. Just want you to think about this as we go through this webinar today, that although all women are making less money than men, Black women, African American women, make 61 cents to the dollar, where Asian American women are making 85 cents to every dollar of a male. A Native American woman is making 58 cents per dollar, and a Latina woman is making 53 cents for every dollar. So think about that as we go through this today. Dawn is going to definitely make sure that we are well-versed and able to arm ourselves to do better, ask for more, and also succeed. Dawn, thank you so much for joining us today on Equal Pay Day, bringing us She Makes More, and bringing us yourself.
All right, thank you, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, and I hope you can see my screen because my Mac is acting a little skittish today. But hello, everyone. Thank you to Jody and to the National Urban League and the Digital Career Success Series for having me today for Equal Pay Day. So I am excited to be your speaker for this Lunch and Learn, for this lunchtime session where we're going to talk about Equal Pay Day, exactly what it is, why it's more important than ever before, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the female breadwinner, the newest category of American woman, American wife, and this is actually happening around the world. So you guys give me 1 second. I know my screen is going to go away for a second, but I promise it will be right back because I have to open up my chat so that my ladies can talk to me if they need to. Okay. All right, awesome. So today is April 2nd, which is Equal Pay Day for this year of 2019. So last year was acknowledged on April 10th, and the reason why it changes is because it is defined as the point in each year. It is defined as the point in each year where the median wage of working women equals that of working men from the prior year. So it changes a little bit each year. So women in the US have to work an additional 4 months into the year to equal what men have made in the previous 12 months. So forward my slides. All right, like I say, my Mac is a little skittish today. So this day is celebrated around the world, and it is celebrated on a different day in different countries based on that own country's statistics and their pay inequality. And the most significant gender pay gaps happen to be in the countries of Korea, Japan, and Chile. And for women of color, our Equal Pay Day, if we look just at African American women, is actually much further into the year, but I will get into that in a second. So who is behind Equal Pay Day? Well, it is a day of awareness that was created actually in 1996 by the National Committee on Pay Equity. This committee is a coalition of women and several women's organizations, civil rights organizations, labor unions, professional organizations, and individuals like yourselves who work to eliminate sex and race-based discrimination to achieve pay equity. But although this day of awareness was created in 1996, it was way back in 1963 when the nation actually made discrimination a matter of federal law through something called the Equal Pay Act that was signed by President John F. Kennedy. So this law requires that men and women in the same workplace be given equal pay for equal work. Job content, not titles, determines whether jobs are substantially equal. All forms of pay are covered by this law, including salary, overtime pay, bonuses, stock options, profit sharing, and bonus plans. See, I didn't know that. And if there is inequality in wages between men and women, employers may not reduce the wages of either gender to try to play catch up. But sadly, 56 years later, the EEOC, which is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, that is a federal agency that was created to enforce civil rights laws against workplace discrimination, continues to see pay practice discrepancies. So the EEOC's job is to confront businesses that are found to be incompliant with this concept of equal pay for equal work. So the EEOC over the past few years has resolved more than 5,000 charges of gender pay discrimination and has recovered more than $40 million through mediation or litigation with certain companies. So activists of Equal Pay Day ask that you wear red to symbolize how far women are in the red in their pay on this particular day. Okay, so how bad is it? So the Census Bureau last year reported that for the year 2017, the median salaries for women were 80 cents for every dollar men earned, and that was no change from 2016. So that wage gap of 80 cents for every man's dollar refers to all women compared to all men, regardless of ethnicity, which gives us the date of April 2nd. So that's a differential of around 20 cents for all women versus all men. But if we account for ethnicity, the gap increases pretty significantly. So if we compare different women of color to white males, let's see what their gap looks like. So for Asian American women, they actually fare the best. They make 85 cents for every dollar that a white male makes, and their day for Equal Pay Day for their ethnicity would be March 5th. White women make 77 cents for every dollar that the white male makes, and their Equal Pay Day would be April 19th. Let's switch to African American women. We make 61 cents for every dollar the white male makes, and our Equal Pay Day will be all the way on August 22nd of 2019. American Indians are at 58 cents. Hispanic women are at 53 cents for every dollar that the white male makes, and their gender pay day is not until November 20th of 2019. So we can see that there is a lot of room for improvement with regards to the gender pay discrepancies that occur when you break it down into ethnicities of these women. So when we look globally, there is about a gender pay difference of approximately where women are making 54 cents for every dollar that a man makes, and this is across all ethnicities and all countries. So just to give you a couple of facts about where you may want to live. So research from the 2017 American Community Survey states that the overall worst city for all women with regards to gender pay gap is Seattle, Washington. The worst city for us as African American females, it was actually 4 cities that were tied: San Francisco, Boston, St. Louis, and Minneapolis. And the worst city for Latino women was Washington, D.C. And the best city overall for us as women, as far as equal pay is concerned, is Los Angeles, California. So those of you out there who may be looking to figure out where you're gonna work in your future, or you're setting your careers up, keep that in mind. Maybe you need to go to LA. So even though Equal Pay Day is used to raise awareness about gender pay inequality, let's not forget that our men are also subjected to pay inequalities based on race. So let's just quickly look at what their numbers are. So all Black men earned approximately 73% of what white men earned hourly in 1980. And then when they investigated it again in 2015, it was still at 73 cents. So Hispanic men earned 69 cents compared to white men, and that actually went down from the 1980s figure, which was 71 cents. And college-educated Black and Hispanic males earn roughly 80% of the hourly wages of white college-educated men. So it gets a little better when you get a college education, but still there is a gap also based on race. So what does it look like, or what sort of forms does this inequality, how does it present itself? So there's something that's called blatant discrimination, and that's basically when investors or employers or the government ask a company or business to investigate their wage systems to see if there are any wage differentials that exist for women versus men when you look at the same education, the same occupation, and when you account for those variables, if they still see a consistent difference in pay, then that's considered blatant discrimination, right? There's nothing else except for gender that can really explain this difference in pay. But let's look at what else contributes to the gender pay gap. So we can also be contributing to the gender pay gap as women because we tend to take on more part-time work than men do. And I don't care what industry you're in, I don't care what skill set you're using, part-time work will always get paid less than full-time work. So just keep that in mind as you move forward in your careers. If you are on the brink of new careers, try to choose full-time work if you want to maximize your pay. And then one of the trends that is somewhat interesting but somewhat disturbing is something called the motherhood penalty. And that is basically, it is described as a growing wage gap that manifests over time as female employees leave to have children. They go on maternity leave. When they come back, they tend to be on a track that now, they see that their wages will not advance as quickly or as much as women who don't have children. Some say it's approximately 7% pay cut per child. Now, this can be due to lots of factors. Is she downgrading again to a part-time status to be more available for her baby? Or has she removed herself from a career acceleration track, again, because she's a mom? So there's a lot of factors, but either way, this is what the statistics tell us, that when you have a baby, you are now on a track to move forward less quickly with regards to advancements in pay. And in some societies, a man who has a family will actually see a faster wage growth. So the World Economic Forum describes this as being symbolic to a parenthood premium for a man and a parenthood penalty for a woman. So obviously, again, lots of room for improvement. So what can you and I do to help? Well, obviously, if we're business owners, we can examine our own pay practices to try to ensure that there are no discrepancies that are hiding in our books, because sometimes we're simply not aware of it. And as individuals, you and I can make sure that our local representatives know, our representatives in Congress know that this is important to us. So if you want to take out a pen and write this down really quickly, all you have to do is call your local representative. You can just, text paycheck, text the word paycheck, PAYCHECK, to the number 21333. And then you will get, I did it yesterday, you'll get a text back. It will ask you, do you want to contact your local representative, and just tell them that you are in support of something called the Paycheck Fairness Act, okay? That's what each of us can do to be sure that our lawmakers know that we are in favor of equalizing pay between genders. So why does this matter more than ever before? So the latest statistics revealed by the Pew Research Center state that 40% of U.S. households that have children have a woman as a higher earner. So the female breadwinner, women who earn more than men, is the new normal in modern relationships. So women are higher earners in more households than ever before, not only in the U.S., but this is happening around the world. So this kind of debunks the argument that a lot of men or opponents of equal pay will say is that, well, men need to get paid more because they have to take care of their families. Well, due to the gains that we as women have attained in education, and we have a greater presence in the workforce, and there was disproportionate job losses from our last recession that affected our men, more and more women are at the helm of their families, carrying the load when it comes to income providers. So this makes the need for equalizing pay even more crucial than before for women in the U.S. and also around the world, okay? So the statistics are also showing us that this trend of the female breadwinner is not going anywhere. Okay, this is here to stay. So let me show you what some of these statistics reveal, that in most American cities, single childless women ages 22 to 30 are making more than their male counterparts. Also, statistics teach us that in this country, it's been since the 1980s that the number of women receiving bachelor's degrees surpassed that of men, and this is across all ethnicities. By 2008, the U.S. women earned more doctoral degrees than their male counterparts, and it is projected that by the year 2050, there will be 140 college-educated women in the U.S. for every 100 similar men. Okay, so let's see where we are in this particular group with regards to breadwinners or experience being a breadwinner, okay? So we're going to launch a poll. So you guys can just enter your answers there. I just want to see how many of you have personal or secondhand experience being the higher earner in a marriage. Let's see if our statistics equal what the Pew Research Center described. Okay, so I am somewhat afraid to touch my screen because my Mac has been acting crazy. Okay, so 86%. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay, so I need to, 1 second. I have to get back to my screen, yes? Okay, so you have to send me back the control, right? 1 second, guys. 1 second, I have to get.
While we're waiting for Dr. Dawn to come back, I just want to remind everyone that we are giving away one of her fabulous books of She Makes More, as well as a t-shirt. So get those questions coming in with the most insightful and poignant questions that will make this Q&A towards the end of our session that much more exciting.
Awesome. So hopefully you can see my screen at this point. So let me just tell you again who I am and why this is important to me. So on a day like Equal Pay Day, it's a perfect time to honor the newest category of modern wife, the female breadwinner. That is women who earn more than their mates. And today I will have the pleasure of introducing you to the female breadwinner and describing my research on how she moves through her relationships a little bit differently than the wife of decades and centuries ago. My passion is to illuminate the nuances of these relationships because there can be some unique struggles and challenges that these relationships endure. This dynamic contributed to the demise of my own marriage, so I know firsthand of what I speak. And while it is becoming more common in all communities, especially the African American community, tradition teaches us to feel embarrassed, to feel ashamed, to not discuss that this or admit that this is our circumstance, and you cannot fix what you are afraid to face. So I started this journey 9 years ago. I am a doctor. I married a teacher when I was in medical school, and I struggled as the higher earner in that marriage because it felt different from anything I saw growing up. It felt like my marriage was upside down, inside out, and backwards. So I struggled for years with being the higher earner, and I decided to write a book, at which point I freed myself. It's called She Makes More: Inside the Minds of Female Breadwinners. And ever since then, I have really been an advocate for this type of wife, for this type of relationship. My mission is to push us as a society to acknowledge, confront, embrace, and celebrate these types of relationships because They are the new normal. So we have to stop hiding. We have to stop being ashamed to talk about it. So I just want to take a moment to share a few nuances about the female breadwinner with you, with hopes that our men and our society can begin to understand her a little bit better. So, learning more about the female breadwinner. So despite urban myth, many of these women still want their man to be the head of household, okay? But the difference between this type of wife and the wife of centuries or decades ago is that this type of wife, if she doesn't see competent leadership from her man, she is able to lead by default because she's more capable than ever before. She's more educated, she's more accomplished, she's more worldly. So again, if she does not see the strong leadership in her mate, she is very capable of stepping into those shoes. Also, this particular type of woman, it's important for our men to understand that when they are asked the most meaningful way that they want to be loved or supported, this particular type of wife will say emotional support, okay? Emotional support. Her other choices were financial support, help with domestic chores, material things, all those things. Like, how does she want to be loved? And her response, overwhelmingly more than 50%, is emotional support. So that means she wants an emotional cheerleader. She wants somebody to say, I see you working hard for the family, I appreciate you. She needs somebody who can erase that competitive energy, in the home, and just somebody who is in her corner. So that's important for our men to understand that that is a very, very valued quality for us. Also, this particular type of wife may harbor some degrees of resentment if her husband or her boyfriend's ambition seems to lag behind hers, right? She values ambition and hustle as a very important and very attractive attribute in a mate. So see, sometimes she may be judging her mate to say, hey, are you really maximizing your circumstance in this life? And another interesting caveat about this particular type of wife is that some have issues with financial intimacy. And by that, I mean, they don't always reveal, they don't show all their hands with regards to their money, their salary, any bonuses, any assets, any big ticket items they may buy when they're shopping. And this is just because past conditioning with that particular man can sometimes teach her that, quote unquote, he can't handle the truth. So if she has openly shared and been vulnerable with her finances in the past and has opened up, hey, I got a raise today. Hey, I got a salary increase. This is how much I made. And she sees a fallout from that. She sees bad behavior on his part when she shares, then in the future, she will no longer share. I have women who say that their husband has absolutely no idea how much money they make. So it's just an interesting characteristic that can sometimes lead to some a culture of dishonesty in the relationship for whatever it's worth. So when it comes to career, this particular type of woman, her identity is very much intertwined with her career. So when I ask many of these women, hey, would you leave your career behind if it was causing damage to your mate's ego? The overwhelming answer was no. Now, it's very different if it's, objectively, if it's affecting the family, if it's affecting her availability, she's working too many hours, she's traveling too much. Objectively, if it's hurting the family or hurting the marriage, that's something very different. But as far as a subjective sensation of his ego being damaged, she would not leave her career behind. And we can imagine when we think of Florida Evans on Good Times, or Louise Jefferson on The Jeffersons, or June Cleaver on Leave It to Beaver, we would have expected those wives to leave their career behind if the husband said he was struggling with it. But fast forward to today, this particular type of woman has worked hard to get where she is, and she is not going to leave the career behind just for, the purposes of bolstering his ego. So this particular type of woman can feel some degree of inadequacy, but again, we always see her as this strong go-getter, do-it-all superwoman. But because she is spread so thin through so many areas between career and wife and mom and home, sometimes she does have some feelings of inadequacy that she deals with because she's spread too thin. Some of these women can describe that they have this sensation of drowning. Okay, so this particular type of woman is going to need some additional strategies and tips to be able to cope with those feelings. Right off the top, I will say definitely place boundaries. making sure that you're saying no to certain things as opposed to feeling like you can take on everything. That can be outsourcing some things in your home, like getting a housekeeper or doing one of those meal services. That can be telling your family, hey, if this kitchen is dirty, I'm not going to be able to cook dinner. So again, you set boundaries and help you require your family to help you out more. Also, this particular type of woman can experience something that I call the Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde syndrome. And that's a syndrome of struggling to shed some of that masculine energy that is awarded in the workplace. But when she reaches home, again, a lot of times the husband doesn't want to feel that energy. So it's something that our men may have to understand, because sometimes we don't even know that we're doing it. We don't even know that, hey, I have not turned this off. And we really do want to turn it off sometimes, right? Our home should be a safe space where we can lick our wounds, we can lean on his shoulder, we can be feminine, we can cry if we want to. So it's really going to be important for our men to be able to help us create that environment where we can be vulnerable, because we do need it, whether we admit it or not. So I have some few tips. Again, I am the champion for female breadwinners. I've been doing this for 9 years now. I have some tips on how this particular type of wife can achieve success. And the 3 steps are to get educated, to get involved, and to get invested. Okay, so what do I mean when I say get educated? Well, learn who you are as a female breadwinner, because we cannot teach our men how to love us until we recognize how we want to be loved. So many of the women that I interviewed in my book, this was the first time they ever even thought about, hey, what do I need that I'm not getting in this marriage? So sometimes we have to engage in some introspection and learn who we are and learn how we are different than the wife of centuries or decades ago. Again, my book is a great resource for you to begin to get educated about us as a collective of female breadwinners. And we're going to have a book giveaway at the end, as well as a t-shirt giveaway. So the second step for female breadwinners to achieve success is to get involved. And that means don't suffer in silence. Okay, I suffered in silence for years. I was afraid to tell anybody this was my circumstance. I didn't have any role models. I was just kind of just alienated, and I was lost. And it's really helpful to align yourself with other women in your same circumstance as a support system. I am available to you. I have started live events. My event is called Inside His Mind, Female Breadwinner Brunch. I have had 2. I've had one in Orlando, one in Houston. My next one will be in Atlanta in the fall. This is an awesome event where successful ladies come together and we learn from a panel of mystery men about how our men want to be loved when she is the higher earner. Okay, so it's about raising awareness about some of the, again, challenges in these relationships. And I also go live every day talking about the female breadwinner on my social media sites, which I will show you at the end. So the second step is get involved and find a support system for yourself. And the third step is get invested. And that means dig your heels in, start doing the work to help strengthen your relationship and be intentional about it. Stop acting like your relationship is the same as a traditional, because it's not. So the more intention, the more effort you give to strengthen your relationship, the better off you will be. I have a completely free resource for you. Again, this is what I do. This is what I love to do. This is my purpose. It's called the Female Breadwinner Online Summit. It's completely free. All you have to do is go to that website, femalebreadwinnersummit.com, and it will be amazing interviews with experts, with myself and experts, and we're going to help you maximize your circumstance as a female breadwinner and begin to live your best life. So, Equal Pay Day, I am hopeful. I am hopeful that we are going to continue to close this pay gap. For one reason that I'm hopeful is that African American women are the fastest growing ethnic group of women entrepreneurs. And this was by a study put out by American Express last year that stated that African American women surpassed every other ethnicity with regards to business beginning entrepreneurship between, I think it was the years of 2007 to 2018 or something like that, 2017. Either way, we blew it out of the water compared to other ethnicities. So that is really a great promise, because it shows that we are not going to have to wait for an employer to pay us on Equal Pay Day. We're going to be paying ourselves. So why else am I hopeful about Equal Pay Day? Well, we know as women, we still struggle sometimes with our negotiation skills, with feeling that we have the right to negotiate. So as we continue as, as a collective to feel empowered to negotiate, as we brush up on our negotiation skills, I think we're going to see greater numbers of us getting higher, entry salaries or higher bonuses, because we're going to begin to demand that we receive what we are worth if we practice more. And then lastly, why I'm hopeful is because there are more college degrees getting awarded to women than men. And again, this has been since the 1980s. So if this trend continues, women are eventually going to be the most educated out of the bunch. So we will obviously be able to use that as a bargaining chip to be able to, again, ask for the pay that we deserve. So I hope you enjoyed this talk. Again, I hope I have raised awareness for you about Equal Pay Day and why it's more important than ever before, because more and more households have a woman as a higher earner. She is the female breadwinner. And I hope I have raised your IQ a little bit about how this wife moves through her relationships a little bit differently than the traditional wife. And again, my passion is to help keep these relationships strong. So I hope you will stay connected to me through social media. I am on Facebook as She Makes More. I am on Instagram as She Makes More. And on those two platforms, I go live every day at 1:30, again, trying to raise awareness, improve the brand of the female breadwinner in the eyes of the world, helping our men not be afraid of us, helping our men understand us better. On LinkedIn, Dawn DeLavalade, and on Twitter, meet Dr. Dawn. So thank you for your attention.
Wow. Dawn, even though I know you personally, I always get wowed every time I hear you speak. There's to learn. And I'm always excited because I feel like I'm the person who's been listening to you a lot because I'm not yet married. So I hope there's other single people on the line, that this is very important. And sometimes it has thwarted or can, definitely damage relationships and dating before you even get married, let alone married. The questions that we have come in today are all amazing. So I don't know how we're going to pick these two winners, but one thing that everyone seems to be asking is, as much as you brought up, what's really going on the male side of getting them to change their mindset of this modern woman. Some people mention that, sometimes their man seems all gung-ho and then suddenly they flip how they're feeling about their grind and hustle. And I think my take on it is kind of like, and I want your professional opinion, but it's more or less like, in the beginning, it seems cool, like my babe, my wifey, my girl, she's doing great. But then if they're not doing so great at the same time, and also depending on how you, I'll say, flaunt or floss your own success in their face, kind of plays off that. So explain that more, how that works and that imbalance, and how maybe you can bring some balance to that in a relationship, whether married or dating.
Yeah, I think that's always a question as women that we don't quite understand. And I actually had a really great Facebook Live on this past Friday. And it's kind of, I think it's several factors involved. As you say, I think that some of it is men are sometimes naturally more competitive. So sometimes if they see that, initially they're attracted to this go-getter, but then now that they're with her, she keeps going, and maybe she's even surpassing him with her success or with her gains, then he begins to question himself, right? So it's a little bit of insecurity. It's a little bit of him comparing himself to her and saying, wow, now I don't even feel like I'm measuring up to everything that she has going on. So I think some of it, again, becomes to be he's comparing himself to you, and he feels like he's not measuring up. So I mean, in that sense, what we really have to help our men understand is that, the competitive energy, yeah, I know it's natural for a man to sometimes display that, but it's not that healthy for a relationship. So if there's a way that we can just begin to appreciate each other, he cannot be a mini me of her, and she cannot be identical to him. They have their own paths, they have their own purposes. But one thing I will say is that a man who's walking in his purpose, I think, is much less concerned or much less threatened by your success. So if there is any way to help him, kind of pivot and focus more on what he loves, trying to discover, hey, why was I put on this planet? What am I meant to do with my life? I think sometimes that is a great way to help him feel less threatened, is to help him find his passion and walk in his purpose, if there's any way that you can do that. And like you say, part of it is, how are we showing up, right? What is the energy that we're putting out there? Because if we are having a little bit too much bravado, or having, sticking our chest out a little bit too much, that's not really attractive. That's not that attractive to a man. So we got to be careful what we're doing. It's okay to feel empowered, but again, competition and it's just not that healthy within the relationship sometimes. So just try to bring it back. Be sure you're showing your feminine side is okay. It's okay for you guys to be vulnerable with each other. Never forget how to show vulnerability to each other. Show, be able to expose your soft spot to each other. And I think that is kind of the most healthy energy for these kind of relationships.
No, I mean, your speaking today brought me back to high school, when I definitely was dating a young guy that my dad, my parents, I had money, but he's like, my father told me, give him the money even though you're paying,
Right.
Because of the ego thing. So I guess there is some tutelage amongst men, right? Some chivalry, some honorary.
Yeah.
I think my dad's hope was that I was going to learn that I needed someone who was doing a little bit more, but
Yeah.
he could tell I was in love, right? So I think you need to be able to do that yourself.
Yeah. Definitely.
Now older, there's things you can do, and that's the ego part, right? Like, I don't have to flaunt my big gold,
Right.
my Amex Platinum in someone's face. I can just make
Yeah.
sure it's paid for, or pay for stuff in advance, or buy stuff online.
Yeah.
So a quick question, a quick repeat, if you can also tell everyone again what the number is to support the Paycheck Fairness Act,
Sure.
because I think people miss that.
Yep. And I didn't, that's my fault. I didn't add it to the slide.
It's
So all you have
okay.
to
That's
text
why
the
you
word.
repeat it now, and everyone will get it, and even those who joined us a little after that. So,
Okay, cool. So you just have to text the word paycheck to 21333. So paycheck 21333. And then you will immediately get a response that will ask you, do you want to either call or text your local representative or something along those lines? And it's called the Paycheck Fairness Act, is what you're going to verbally, tell your representative that you are in support of.
gotcha. So, some people are saying that, they're okay with the imbalance within their relationship. I always question that. But that it's the people outside, it's the friends, it's the family who said you can do more. Kind of like if you ever watched the TV show, if you're old enough, like Rock, right? The garbage man, and so like blue collar, but he's doing well. All the love stories that we have on television are always the haves and the have-nots. And it seems to be these outside, quote unquote, people.
Yeah.
So how do you stay strong within your relationship with these outside entities is really the
Right.
question.
Yeah, I think you guys have to turn inward, and you have to be a team, and you're gonna have to say, you're just gonna have to be honest with yourself, and you say, you know what, the world may not be on our side, because our situation is upside down from what their expectations are at this point. Slowly we are changing, but at this point it's still seen as a bit of an anomaly. Even though the numbers, do not support that it's an anomaly, it's actually a new normal. So really, it's going to take you guys as an effort, as a team, to again form boundaries, to be able to have the courage to take up for your relationship. So let's say, for instance, you guys are going to get a loan for a house or a car. And let's say, for whatever reason, maybe because your salary far surpasses his or what have you, maybe you're going to be the primary, or you're going to be the sole person of the loan, or what have you. And that loan officer, kind of like is completely focused on you. Maybe they're somewhat, inconsiderate to your mate. Maybe they just are blatantly, ignoring him or excluding him. This is a time where you guys as a partner say, you know what, I appreciate if you address me and my husband or me and my boyfriend, as a collective. And again, stand up for your relationship, set boundaries, and people will fall in line. And that's the same with your family, right? Sometimes our family can be really, really cruel to a man who earns less because there's still this stigma that he's not pulling his weight just because his salary is less. Well, come on, people. I mean, women have been getting education at higher rates since the 1980s. So we got to flip our training, and we got to stop looking at the man who earns less as not pulling his weight. Maybe he just doesn't have as much education. He does not have as much career preparedness. And so, of course, that's going to translate into a lower salary. So part of it is our society changing our mindset. But in the meantime, when you get together for your, Thanksgiving and Christmas, and you start to have the cousin or the uncle or whoever, make rude comments or treat your mate in a way that you don't agree with, it's time to stand up for yourself. You don't have to be belligerent about it, but you can just turn to dad or turn to your uncle and say, you know what, I really don't appreciate when you talk to him that way. Or, we're a team, we love each other. This relationship works for us, and we really would appreciate if you respect our union. You have to say that maybe once, twice, 3 times at the most. And your family will probably lay off for the most part. So it's going to take courage, right, to be able to do that. But again, you guys are a team, and you got to set boundaries for the world, because they will absolutely attack you if you give them that opportunity, and if you fold to that sort of pressure.
This is something I struggle with in general, not in terms of male and female issues, but it was brought up a couple of times how, you want to, a lot of women also want to help their men, push them along, and they feel like, where's the fine line between nagging and being, I guess, more innovative and ways to kind of push your man to do more. My generic thing is like, I'm always kind of struck by people who are just happy where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so the double question is, how do you get okay with being the person who makes more versus pushing your man to do more if that's not what they really want to do?
Right. Yeah, so
like, when does empowerment turn into nagging,
yeah.
and
Right. Yeah, I think obviously every man is going to be a little bit different. I do, first of all, I want us to not shy away from, verbal affirmations, not shy away from, verbally pushing him, giving him, whether we're, helping him, get a logo or a website, or we're giving him an article or a book, or we're saying, babe, I know you can do it. I really see you, starting this business, or I really see you getting that degree. I don't think we should ever stop, because I think our words are very golden, and our words definitely can push our men to want to do better. And I hear this from the men. And even though some of the men will say, hey, even though you may feel like you're nagging, we hear you. And we don't, you shouldn't stop. Now, obviously, there's some people that take it too far. I think you also have to remember, let a man be a man, right? So we cannot spoon feed him everything either. We can put it out there. Again, the verbal affirmations are phenomenal, but he has to kind of meet halfway as well. Because when you spoon feed or you baby too much, then you end up maybe having somebody who didn't really want it in the first place, and maybe we're just doing it to appease you. So he's got to obviously put forth some effort, but it's a fine line. And I think part of his reaction is going to be huge, right? So if you the first time in this week you said, wow, but babe, how did it go? Did you go to that class or that session or that webinar? And then he answers, and then the next thing you may say, so did you work on your logo at all today? And then the third thing, you see an expression, you feel the energy change, he snaps at, obviously, okay, hey, maybe twice in a week is the limit, right? You tried 3 times and it was too much. So you gotta feel what his feedback is sometimes as well. Is he receptive to what you're saying, or does it seem like now he's getting irritated? So just balance it, just again, work off of his feedback, and also communicate. Ask him, like, hey, when I ask you these questions, do you welcome these questions, or do you want me to lay off? Do you want me to just, let you handle it? our men will tell us what they want, right? And sometimes it may fluctuate depending on his mood, depending on what else he has going on in his life. If other things are falling apart, yeah, he's not going to be in a very receptive mood to you saying, hey, did you do this? Did you do that? It is going to feel like nagging. But if he's in a good place, he's in a, good things are happening around him, now he's going to be more receptive, and he's going to see it more like an affirmation as opposed to an attack or like nagging. Now, as far as how to accept somebody who you don't see as being quote unquote as ambitious as you would like, that's always tricky, right? Because again, we cannot expect somebody to be a mirror image of ourselves. So if we are that go-getter, high achieving, high ambition sort of a woman, we chose this man for a reason. And if he did not display those qualities when we chose him, why are we expecting him to somehow metamorphosize into a mini me or a mirror of what we are? That's not really fair, right? So I think you have to go back to, hey, what did I see when I met this man? Were those qualities there or not? If they were there and now he has lost them, then you got to get into, hey, what happened? How did he get off track? What changed in his life that now he is in this slump where he's not showing any ambition? Was there a death? Was there, a loss of a job? Is there depression, right? I mean, sometimes we know depression exists in our community, and a lot of people are not in favor of getting the professional help that they need, especially after job loss. Our men do suffer with depression after job loss. So sometimes it's a matter of finding out, hey, how did he get derailed, and seeing if you can get him back on track. If he's always been not ambitious, then that was your choice. You chose this person. So stop trying to get him to be a mirror image of yourself and figure out, you're going to love this man for who he is or you're not. And if you're not, and you're not already married, then maybe it's time for you to find another mate. If you're already married, well, you need to stick it out, go get some counseling, figure out how you can deal with it, because that's not fair. You chose him, so you cannot expect him to turn into somebody else, or if you married his quote unquote potential. You cannot control that aspect of a person, so you made that choice.
Okay, well, this one brings it directly to career choice in itself. You were brought up the part-time versus full-time. What do you do when you've had to just taken a job, and how do you kind of ask for more even for yourself, whether you're making more than your man or not? Like, just how do you advocate better for yourself?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think, obviously being able to negotiate, I would brush up on my negotiation skills, right? I would, figure out, hey, how do I need to be positioning myself? What are the relationships I need to be making? Because as women, we are sometimes better at forming relationships than men are, right? That's a strong suit that we have. So maybe it's a matter of, hey, start being very intentional about forming better relationships with those individuals who can make those decisions for you to, move up into a higher position. Again, get your particular skills up to snuff, and recognize that it's okay to say no. I think as women, because we are nurturers and caregivers, because we sometimes see selflessness as, something to strive toward, sometimes we are afraid to say no. And if we are offered something that is undervaluing what we bring to the table, I think we have to be comfortable saying, no, I'm not going to accept that, or no, I have to, leave, or I have to pivot, or what have you. So I think it's just sometimes us as women tapping into our power a little bit more, again, being powerful enough to say, no, you are undervaluing me, strengthening our relationships with the individuals who can make those decisions for us. And again, brushing up on our negotiation skills so that we come in there, our posture is where it needs to be, our words are where it needs to be, we're using the right terms, and we are convincing. So I think those three things, may put you in a much better place.
This leads directly into the next question, which is, what do you do when, men tell you that they don't want to date you anymore because, you make more than them, and you're intimidated? Like, how do you handle that?
Okay, well, shameless plug here. I covered so much of this on my live. I just did a Facebook Live on Friday. It was called The Intimidation Epidemic: Why Some Modern Men Are Afraid of Modern Women, with a very great author and coach out of South Africa, Kofi. Anyway, we had an awesome conversation. I would love for you to go back and watch it. All you have to do is go on my Facebook page, which is She Makes More, and just scroll down to Friday night, which was March 29th. You'll see a side-by-side interview with me and Kofi. It was a 90-minute conversation. It was phenomenal, but you will get a lot of questions answered in that video, and especially coming from a male perspective. But as far as the intimidation, it does feel like an epidemic, right? It feels like it's happening more and more every day. And part of it is, again, our men are not feeling like they are measuring up. And Kofi, who was my co-host, made a really great point. And that is, when you think about all the initiatives that have been happening over the past maybe decade or more, there's so many initiatives that we're pouring into little girls, right? How many of those are pouring into little boys, right? It's not as many. So it's almost like our little boys have been somewhat forsaken or left behind. And we've been focusing so much on the girls playing catch up that maybe these boys did not have somebody to pour into them and say, hey, you're worthy. Hey, you're worth more than your paycheck. Hey, you can be anything you want to be. Hey, you don't have to be intimidated because this woman has X, Y, Z. And so some of it is, as a society, we need to start doing better to make our boys feel more worthy, or to help their esteem. Okay. But with regards to her question, some of it is, if she keeps finding herself surrounded by men who are intimidated by her, I think it's time to shift toward a new pool of men. Whether that means you go older, okay, because sometimes the older man may be more established in his career and he's not going to be intimidated by you. And, I know some, depending on your age, if you're 20s, or maybe you look at 40s and 50s, and you're like, ew, 40s and 50s, if they're in shape, it's not that much difference between, it can still be a great relationship. Think about giving it a try. So
Age is nothing but a number. Is that what you're saying?
Say what?
Age is nothing but a number.
Okay, yeah. Try the older man, I would say. Also, sometimes you look at, maybe, is your checklist a little like too, is it too much? Like, are you looking for the 6 foot? Are you looking for the, these pecs? Are you looking for this degree? Da, 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 da. And sometimes say, hey, can I go for the man who may not, look like a hot fudge sundae as far as how attractive he is, who may not have this stellar body, who may not be 6 feet tall, and see if maybe you're missing out on some gems who may not be fitting into, you're checking all of these boxes of what you may want. So try to go outside the box a little bit. So whether you're at a networking event or you're on those social media sites, just see what it's like to swipe on that guy that you otherwise, you're like, oh, he's okay. Give him a chance. You never know. So I think those two things maybe may give her a couple more options for over the next 6 months moving forward. And I say good luck. But it is an epidemic. So please go check that Facebook interview. Again, just go to facebook.com/She Makes More and check out my interview with Kofi on Friday night. It was great.
Well, it's clear that a lot of folks just need to be listening in. I want to make a statement that, yes, this recording will also be available on YouTube, on the National Urban League's page or channel for YouTube under Urban League Jobs Network. So you will also be able to circle back to the great words of today. I want you to know, Dr. Dawn, that you've had a lot of amens and alrighty thens and a lot of high fives from what you've been saying today. So Thank you so much. And then last question is, how do you really stay strong in this struggle for those that are single, like myself?
Yeah.
To wait for that right person, no matter the age. You could find that other Ashton Kutcher, right, the 20-something, and you could also find someone who's older. But how do you know you have someone who has the right mindset, a man that has the right mindset, since you debunked age?
Yeah. Again, I think it's that man who you definitely feel like he's a supporter for you, right? He's a cheerleader for you. He celebrates your wins. There's no emotional fallout or temper tantrum when you get a new, again, accolade or new achievement or something phenomenal happens for you. He actually celebrates with you. He's happy for you. feel what his energy is like. Is it somebody where you do feel like you can be vulnerable? You do feel like he creates a safe space for you to cry, lick your wounds, show your feminine side. I think those are really good signs of somebody who genuinely loves and wants to serve you and support you, as opposed to somebody who's going to see you as competition, who's going to be somewhat taken aback or see you as somewhat abrasive. So I would say definitely how he treats you. Is he supportive? Again, that's one of the things that this type of wife needs more than anything, is a man who is emotionally supportive for her and can create that safe space. So I think if he's giving you that energy, I think that's a really positive sign, regardless of if he's in his 20s or in his 50s. If he's giving you that emotional support, I think that's a phenomenal sign.
Okay, well, I want to announce your lovely 2 winners for today. A. Cotman, you have won the t-shirt. And I'm sorry, Misty Watson, you have won the t-shirt. And A. Cotman, you have won the book based on your insights. The questions have been amazing from everyone, but you guys had some really deep ones and from the very beginning and throughout the conversation as it continued. So we will be in touch with you via email to make sure we get your mailing address and stay in contact with Dr. Dawn. The rest of you on the line, please, take Dawn's advice and follow her, follow this movement, bring more people in. Everyone had a comment about they have a friend that should listen in and should have been here, should have listened, should get the book. And I was like, yeah, so, this is the only way we're going to move forward, as Dr. Dawn said, be educated, get involved, and be invested. See, I was listening. The audience is listening. Digital Career Success Series does continue, and we will be bringing this live to Indianapolis at the end of July. So please take a visit. We have a full lineup for the entire month of April, which is Dawn kicked us off today. Then we have Felicia Hatcher, Self-Made. It's really looking at how you as can become an entrepreneur. It doesn't take a lot of money to make a shift. It's more of a mindset, like we were talking about today, about our careers, our money, and our men. In this case, it's like male or female. People have side hustles. How do you turn it out of a side hustle into your career, if that's so you wish, and or make it a stronger side hustle? We will be doing a view from the top, from the C-suite. Valerie Rainford, we will be live and allowing other people to dial in to this wonderful conversation with Valerie Rainford from JP Morgan Chase, who also is an author, but the book is about herself. People, you meet people today, and how they show up is how you think they are already, and you don't know the struggles and the stuff that doesn't show up on screen or on social media or on a resume. She's going to let us into her life and you into hers as well, and talk about being a successful woman of color in the C-suite. And last but not least, for April, Career Choices, Lessons from Becoming. And that's the book clearly written by the infamous Michelle Obama. I have to take a breather there. So lessons from her book, and how people have focused in on the lessons that she's learned and the stuff she's been trying to teach us. So Dr. Dawn, thank you so much for joining us today. I think it's been an amazing afternoon, and I hope everyone has had their power lunch, and look forward to joining you as your Breadwinners group continues to grow. That so will this movement. So thank you all. With She Makes More, as well as Equal Pay Day, please follow all the feeds today. Make sure you contact your local politicians and do the best you can to make a difference in your own career, your own life, and your own relationships. Have a great afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks for our next DCSS.